It is our Good Morning Texas program. We thank you very much for joining us. On the program here this morning, we're talking Wiseman Ministries. Again, we've talked about a lot of different aspects of Wiseman Ministries, but we haven't heard from the top down. We've heard from almost the top, but not quite the top. Tim and Tabitha Wiseman is here, and that means that this whole thing got named after you folks, didn't it?
Yes. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Tabitha, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good.
Oh, good. Who wants to go first? Give us a little background, a little history on where this started, why it started, why you're doing what you're doing.
Man, it's been quite a journey. Got to tell you, Mr. Mark, we're grateful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share first and foremost. You and Mr. Ken are doing a wonderful job here at KWRD.
Thank you.
We started really with a heart of just trying to help one individual, and it's grown exponentially since then. Not really something we planned or prepared for, but it has absolutely grown. So we began our journey by taking in one homeless individual, and from there it just kept expanding because that one homeless individual knew another individual that needed help, and man, it just has grown and grown, and we rented a house and in the Longview off of a street actually called Randall, and then we went from there to renting another place, and it's just kind of, then we bought an old funeral home downtown Longview of all things,
Yeah.
and again, it just continued to grow and grow, and we've got, I don't know, probably close to 280 beds or so, and maybe a little bit more, women, children, men, family units, and so it's been quite a remarkable journey. A lot of ups and downs, but God has been faithful all the way throughout it.
I'm assuming that when you were in contact with that original first person, this is, well, maybe you did have this as an idea or a plan, but then again, it may have just totally blown up on you too,
Yeah.
didn't it?
It really did. You know, the first individual I remember it was 1:30 in the morning. I was laying in bed asleep, and this individual I'd gotten to know, and his name was Donald.
Yeah.
And he's he's a teenager. And when we did street ministry, when we were out feeding and helping people, a bartender at a club that he had snuck into called at 1:30 and said, "This guy's about to leave. We're either calling the cops," or he said to call you and you'd pick him up. And at that point, I didn't know really what to do. Two young kids at home, a family, and but I thought, well, let me go down there and try to help. So got out of bed and went down to this bar. Never been to a bar before in my life. Didn't know anything about what I was walking into.
Sure.
Nevertheless, walked in, picked him up, and my intentions, Mark, was to try to get him into some kind of other shelter or some other help. And well, at that time of the morning, there's really no one there, no one available. The shelters are closed. Hospital was about the only means, and they wouldn't do anything, although he is severely intoxicated. So in Longview, there's a Super One that's right off of Highway 80, South Longview.
Right,
And I
right.
pulled into that parking lot after several attempts to get him into places. It's about 4 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I started crying. I was like, man, I don't know what to do. And by this time, he's passed out in my black Dodge Ford, and I look over at him, and he's passed out asleep, and I just began to say a prayer. God, what do I do? And the scripture that came to mind is, when I was a stranger, you took me in, Matthew 25. And at that moment, it's like he became Christ to me. It's like he transformed into Jesus, and I knew at that moment how I treat him is how I'm treating Christ.
Yeah.
And so I took him home that night, put him on the couch. He slept, didn't even know what happened. Woke up the next morning, had no idea where he was or what was going on, and but he recognized me, and it's pretty amazing.
Before all this, was there a church background, a ministry background of any sort? Were you doing that at all, or were you in a totally different walk of life there?
I was working I graduated from seminary, went into church work, and began what I thought God wanted me to do was, build a career in church ministry, if that makes sense. But, God is not interested in a career. He's interested in calling. And I learned real quickly that my calling was honing in on people that were broken. And I went through a divorce myself, and all that ended up breaking me and other aspects of my life that really just kind of hit a down point. And as I began to climb out of that, this ministry began to develop here called Wiseman Ministries.
Tabitha, somewhere along the way, you probably came in here and said, "Tim, you're nuts."
Yeah.
Or you jumped in and totally wanted to help out.
She actually still says that, Mark.
Yeah, all the time.
I understand.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way, you got into all this.
Yes, sir. We met at work, hauling crude oil, and Tim asked me, he actually called and asked about a woman. They did not have a female program here, and he asked about, taking this woman in. I think I was like, I'll take her dogs. I was scared.
Because you had not done anything like this.
I had not done anything
before
like
either.
this, no. I ended up moving into our first women's home, and
In Carthage.
yes, and that's where, yeah.
So from your Longview beginnings in the parking lot there, any wild idea that you would be spaced out in all these locations around East Texas helping out all the folks you're helping?
No, and as a matter of fact, Mark, we one of our first expansions was to Shreveport, and it failed. We went into Shreveport and bought a old YWCA building downtown. And after a year of wrestling with the city and codes and different things, we finally got it open. And it was we were so excited, did a celebration and different things. And then there's a program downtown called the Downtown Development Authority of Shreveport. So they filed an appeal against our certificate of occupancy and won that appeal through the city council. So then we were stuck with a building, and we were excited. We thought, okay, we're going to be accepted, we're going to be received, and ended up being rejected by the city officials and also the some part of the community. And that was for me was a pretty hard hit. And I remember that over the next year, really. Getting depressed about that, But what it did was I went actually at that point back to college and decided I need to understand what I'm doing better. I had a music degree, but I did not have a business degree, so I thought I want to really try to dive into nonprofit management and business and different things and try to understand what we're doing better, because it is obviously growing and God is obviously blessing it, and I need to feel like I'm more equipped to handle that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's nothing worse than knowing that you've got a good plan and you're doing good work,
Sure.
but the folks that you need to support you aren't supporting you. That's
Yeah.
that could be rough.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you got to back up and kind of regroup and try it again. Huh?
Yeah, every failure can be a success if you learn from it.
Sure.
And although that was a failure from maybe a standpoint of society or something to that effect, but for Tim Wiseman, it actually really pushed me into greater education and greater understanding of what it is we're trying to do. I'm not just leading music anymore. That we're now developing actually a business model, business plan, and just every organization sits on a three-legged stool. You have programs, you have administration, you have finances. I understood our programs. I had an understanding of what we were doing administratively. Financially, I probably didn't have a good grip on things, and so that's again went back to school, try to get a better understanding of it, and we then built a business model of what we're trying to do that complements our programs of what we're trying to do.
Well, let's fast forward to today then, because
sir.
you have programs and they're all over the place and there are a wide variety of things. Go for it. Lay it out there for us. Where would you even like to start as to what Wiseman Ministries is today?
Sure. Well, I'd like for Tabitha to share a little bit about some of the recent events we've had here in Henderson. Started a couple years ago with a women's program, which is so exciting because we, for many years, have been working with men. And all of a sudden, here in Henderson, really some doors have opened up, and it's been really exciting what we're doing with the merger of Sunshine Lighthouse and different things. So why don't you share a little bit about that and the food bank?
Yeah, we do have 120 bed women's facility in New London.
Right.
We've got facility in Carthage. We've got a Gifts of Grace resale shop in Carthage that the women manage. We've got one in Longview. We did just take over the Henderson Food Bank. We're trying to get the food quality
Sure.
up to
And quantity.
Yeah, and quantity. Yeah, just to be able to reach more people. We're building a facility out there right next to the food bank where we'll have showers and a laundromat in it for people to be able to come in and take care of needs. Right there.
So you got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then somewhere in all of this, you ended up with a hotel.
Yeah.
And how'd that come about?
Okay, now that's a crazy story, Mark.
Okay.
We were needing to expand. We were busting out the seams with individuals and people. This is back in July of 2020. And one of our board members was eating at Lily's Taco and walked out of the Lily's Taco from a morning breakfast and looked at that hotel and called me. And he said, man, there's a great facility right here in Henderson. What do you think about expanding down to here? And I said, man, wherever God opens the door. And so I began to research it, find out a little bit more about the building, what the condition it was in, and it had been closed, and learned all of that. And so there was a bank up called East Bank up in Maine, in the state of Maine, and we reached out to them, and they said, yeah, there's an $800,000 lien that was against it. It's going up for auction here, probably within the next few weeks or so. I said, okay. But being that it had $800,000 on it, I knew that wasn't in our price range. So I left it alone. They had my information, but I left it alone and just kind of put it out of sight, out of mind. And so fast forward a few weeks, on a Monday, they called me back. They said, well, actually, that building is coming up for auction on Tuesday, the very next day at 10 o'clock, down at the Rusk County Courthouse. And, I told them, I said, well, I don't have that kind of financing, so we're just going to, probably pass on it. When I got off the phone, though, I got to thinking, I've never been to an auction of property, don't know anything about it. So I'm going to show up. So next morning at 10 a.m., I show up down there. Well, it just so happened in July, it's raining. And so I sit down there, me and another gentleman named Cody Collier and another guy named Steve. And there were definitely a lot of people down there. Didn't know all that was happening or all the properties that were being auctioned off, but there was a lot of people there. And, it kept getting delayed. I went across the street to the tax appraisal office, and they said, yes, there is an auction for that property today. We go down there. Long story short, it seemed like a few hours passed. I know Steve and Cody ended up going and getting lunch, and I stayed. And so anyway, by the time the lady showed up for that property, there was only about three of us that were standing there. And she said, all of you guys registered? I said, yes. And she said, well, start your bid. And I had $100 in my pocket. I pulled it out. I said, I'll bid $100 on it. And she said, well, I'll call the bank. So she walked away, called the bank, come back, and we won it for $100.
Wow.
Didn't expect that, did you, Mark?
No.
Yep. It has some back liens against it.
Sure.
For with the Henderson ISD. We were able to raise the money, take care of that, raise the money to get it remodeled. It didn't require a lot, and we had it open just a few short months.
So with that and all your other facilities that you have and things that you've got going on, do you ever, I guess for lack of a better term, do you ever keep a head count of who all is involved and who all you're helping, or does the head count not matter?
Well, ultimately, Mark, it's not that the head count necessarily matters. The individual that is standing before you at that moment is the one that matters. And so that's the way we really perceive it. A lot of people come and go. This is a very hard program. It's a very hard industry, I guess, if you say.
Sure.
Helping people that are struggling with life-controlling issues. They have been in addiction or been in homelessness, chronic homelessness, or whatever their situation is for many, many years. And so by the time they show up at your door, they're pretty much at the lowest point of their life.
Sure.
And so you're dealing with a lot of emotional things, mental things, obviously even chemical dependencies, physical things. So It's very challenging, and the percentages are very low. A lot of people come and go, but you just try your best to plant seeds and water them and let them grow from there.
And as we understand from previous programs we've done, there's like a 1-year program.
Yes, sir.
A program you designed and started, or something that you picked up from somewhere else?
It's a team effort. We did collaborate with a lot of other programs. Our staff has done a fantastic job of even themselves developing it and tweaking it here and there. And we're constantly looking at ways we can improve. And that's ongoing. So it's an evolution of the program and trying to make it as best we can make it.
And Tabitha, for the women's end of things, a year program there as well, or
Yes,
do you
sir.
have folks kind of coming and going all?
We have both. They do, we do offer transitional, but most of them come and a lot of them don't leave. We never ask anybody to leave. When they graduate, if they want to stay and continue to work, we help with daycare. We still provide all of their meals, laundry, all of those things to be able to help them.
And they could go help out the car wash.
Yes, they do. They do
you
work
go.
at the car wash. We do now have the food bank, and we're opening a store here in Henderson. So
Awesome. So, Russ, Gregg, and Panola counties for sure. Do you ever see this expanding, or are you good with what you have here?
Mark, I never thought it would be what it is. So where will it be next year, 3 years, 5 years from now? If it continues on this pattern, we will grow
only God knows.
significantly, but only God knows. That's right.
Yeah, well, that's true. And his plan is not your plan, right?
That's exactly right.
Yes, I understand. Tim and Tabitha Wiseman Ministries. And again, as always, for folks who need help, maybe just need more information, want to get involved in, and maybe trying to help you out in what you do, how do they find out all about this?
You can learn so much from our newly developed website that actually a guy named Mr. Dakota helped us with. He is beyond belief. When I pulled it up, when he completed it and looked at it, I was just blown away. He's does a fabulous job. And that is wisemanministries.com. Good morning, East Texas. Check it out when you guys get an opportunity. It's a great website, and it tells a lot of information about our programs.
This is one of those programs where we could probably go on for quite a while, and I kind of feel like we've barely touched on things here this morning, but I really do appreciate y'all coming in and talking about it this morning, and all the best to you. And we'll have to get you back in here and kind of pick up from here and go on, because something tells me the story's a lot longer than what we had time for. But
thank you, Mark.
Thanks for everything that you're doing so far, and all the best in the future.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.